Drawing this koi fish in Procreate is easier than you think, and I'm going to show you step by step how you can do it even if you're a beginner in digital art. Before you start, please download the color palette for this illustration and all my free brushes that are linked in the description of this video. And if you enjoyed this video and would like to draw more of me, check out my Patreon where I have more step-by-step tutorials like this and many Procreate brushes. Link is in the description. And with all that being said, grab your drawing tools and let's start. Let's make a new canvas, A4 canvas from Procreate. And first we can color the background. Let's pick a color. Let's take this first one over here in a first line and just drag and drop it in here. Now we are going to add here second color at the bottom part of this. So let's take that color, it's the next one in line, and let's take a selection tool. At the bottom here, let's pick rectangle. Let's turn on color fill. And we can select here rectangle like this. A little bit less than 1/3 of the canvas. Let's tap here to finish. And we can blend those two colors together by blurring this. So let's go to the adjustments. Let's take Gaussian blur. And let's swipe pencil on the screen to blur this and blend this nicely. We can make the blur size 67%. Let's tap here to finish this. And right away we can also add here some texture. For this we are going to make a new layer. And we can change the color. Let's take this one. And let's pick here a brush. Let's go to my siakulaart special brushes. And we can take here texture free. Let's make the brush size 100%. And we can color all of the canvas like this, with one move. We want this texture to be bigger, so we can take the arrow tool now. At the bottom here, let's put on uniform option. And we can just make this bigger like that. Okay, let's tap here to finish this. And we are going to change a blending mode of this layer. So let's open the layers. Let's tap here on this N letter. And let's set this to overlay. And now we can turn down the opacity of this. I want this to be there, but not too visible. I will set it as 18%. Let's tap here to finish. And now we can start with drawing the reflection on the water. Let's make a new layer for this. We are going to keep this light color and we can change the brush. Let's go to inking and take Studio Pen. Let's make the brush size 29. And we can draw some wiggly, shaky lines around the canvas like this. Let's divide it into a few spaces. So like that. Make sure to vary your thickness of the lines. Maybe I will still add one line over here. And one over here. Okay. And now we can still add here something more interesting in the places where the lines are meeting. We can draw here a triangular shapes like this. And divide them into 2 or 3 parts like this. So let's do it in few of those spots, you don't have to do it everywhere. I will maybe still add one line over here, like this. Okay, and this will be enough for me. Now let's add here some smaller lines around those shapes, on the sides of them, so like this. Let's add few of them. I think this will be enough. And now we can make this a little bit transparent. So let's open the layers and we can just simply lower the opacity of this layer. So let's tap here and let's turn it down. I will make it 72%. Now we can add here some reflection on top of those lines. So let's duplicate this layer. Let's change the blending mode of this to add. We can bring back the opacity to 100% now. And we are going to erase some parts of this. So let's take the eraser, let's tap on it and set it to soft brush from airbrushing. Let's make the brush size here 11. And just erase this in few places. I would say in most of the places we should erase this, so we can have just only few places that will be very bright here. Okay, I think for me this is good. And now we can make this reflection even stronger by adding here a bloom effect. So let's go here to the adjustments and take bloom. Swipe your pencil on the screen to the bloom size. And now you can see how this starts to glow. And here at the bottom we can change the other settings. I like it like that, so my settings are like this. Bloom size 11, transition 82, size 22 and burn 33. Let's tap here to finish. And now right away we are going to add here shadow from those reflections. So for this we are going to duplicate this layer here. Let's swipe on it to the left and pick duplicate. And now let's take the one underneath here. We want to change the color of this. So to do that quickly and easily, we can tap here, we can pick select. Now here at the bottom, let's make sure that the color fill is turned on, and we can pick the color. Let's take this one. Now let's take the arrow tool, and we are going to move this out a little bit. I will move it to the bottom right side, like this, and we can make it just a little bit bigger. Not too much, just a little bit. Let's move it again, like this, and I think that's good now. Let's tap here to finish, and as you can see now we don't have here this shadow at the edges. We have to redraw this. So let's take the brush and just continue those lines so it will look good. Now we are going to blur this shadow a little bit. So for this, let's go to the adjustments and take Gaussian blur. And we can add here a very small blur size. Let's make it 5%. Let's tap here to finish this. And now we are going to duplicate this layer. So let's swipe on it to the left and pick duplicate. And we can change the bottom layer here into overlay. So let's tap here and set this to overlay. Let's turn up the opacity of this layer to 100%. And now let's go to the other layer, the one on top, and we can erase here some of this shadow. So let's take the eraser and just erase some parts of this. This way the shadow here will have nice two colors. Just do it lightly so the transition between the two colors is nice. Okay, so the water is finished. We are still going to add here some more effects in the end. Now we can draw some water lily plants. Let's make a new layer for this. And let's put this on top of everything. Let's pick a color. Take this one. The brightest green. And we can just draw some kind of circular shapes in few places on the canvas. Right away we can color this, so drag and drop the color in here like this. And let's just draw a few of them. Now we can cut a small piece away from each leaf. For this we are going to use the selection tool. At the bottom now let's pick freehand option. Let's turn off color fill. And let's select here a triangular shape like this. So tap on the screen. Now tap again somewhere close to the middle. And tap here to the side and close this shape like that. Let's do it to all the leaves. And now the last one over here. Okay. And now to erase those parts, we can go to the Actions menu, Add, and pick here Cut. Okay, let's tap here to finish this. And let's add here now some more color to those leaves. For this we can make a new layer on top of that one. And we are going to set it as clipping mask. This way whatever we draw here will be visible only on the layer that is underneath. Let's change the color. Take next one in line, this one, and let's pick a brush with some texture. Let's go here to charcoals, and let's take here willow charcoal. With the brush size 24, we can color some part of those plants like that, creating here a little bit of shadow too, this way. So I'll keep my color on the right side. Like that. And this will be enough for me here. Now let's add here some more detail on top of this. So let's make a new layer. Let's also set it as clipping mask. And let's change the color. Let's take the next one in line, this one. And let's change the brush. Let's take now 4B compressed. Let's make the brush size small, around 3%. And we can draw on each of the leaf lines like this, going from the middle of the plant. So something like this. And now let's take a small break, and I would like to ask you to write a comment with the word fish. It would mean a lot to me, I would know that you enjoyed this video and I could see who is watching me, so thank you for doing that. And now let's go back to drawing. And the last one. Okay, now we are going to add here some thickness to those plants. We can do it very easily by duplicating the main shape of them. So this layer over here, swipe on it to the left and pick duplicate. And let's take the layer underneath and we want to change the color of this. So we are going to tap on this layer and pick select. Now here at the bottom let's turn on color fill and let's pick the color. Take this one. Now we can move this out a little bit, so let's take the arrow tool and let's tap on the screen a few times in this direction and you can see how those plants are getting here some thickness. Let's tap here to finish and now we can zoom in and just fix here this kind of mistake here because those two shapes should be connected. So let's go back to the studio pen, go to inking and take studio pen and just draw here like that to connect them. Let's do it everywhere where we see this mistake. I'll make the brush size smaller for this, 11, and just fix it. So here at the edges of the canvas you can see that we're missing some part of the plant. Let's fix that. Okay, and I think this is it. So now we can drop the shadow from the plants. So again, let's take the shape of them. Let's duplicate this layer. Let's take the layer underneath now. And let's move this layer so it will be under the reflections over here. Let's change the color of this. So tap on this layer and pick select. Let's pick the color for our shadows. So this one. And let's take the arrow tool and move it out like that. Let's try to move it about the same distance that we moved the reflections and their shadow. So I would say like this. We can make this bigger a little bit. Okay. Let's tap here to finish. And again here, as you can see, we have here some missing parts. Let's fix this. So let's redraw that. Like this. And let's color this inside here. And we are going to blur this a little bit. So let's go to the adjustments and take Gaussian blur. Let's add the blur size 5%. And we can turn down the opacity of this a little bit, just like before. Let's make it about 75%. And let's duplicate this layer. Now the layer underneath, let's change it to overlay. Put the opacity to 100%. And go back to the previous layer, this one. And we can erase a little bit of this. So let's take the eraser. And very lightly, let's erase some parts of this on the edges here. Now we can start drawing the fish. Let's make a new layer for this. And let's pick a base color for the fish now. Take this one, first one in the third line. And we are going to draw the shape of it. To do it easily, we can change the settings of the brush, settings of all the brushes. We'll do it just for a moment. So let's go to the Actions menu. Now Preferences, Pressure and Smoothing, and let's make the stabilization a higher number. I will make it 61%. Now this way we can draw a nice, not shaky shape over here. Let's draw it like that. Kind of like a long curve teardrop shape. Let's color this inside. We can still fix this. I will make it just a little bit thicker over here. Okay. And now I'm happy with this shape, but I want to make this a little bit bigger. So I can take the arrow tool and make it bigger like this, and maybe rotate it a little bit this way. Okay, I will tap here to finish this. And for a moment, when we are working on the fish, we can hide the layers with the reflection. We'll place the fish later in a proper place. So let's open the layers here and let's turn off those two layers here. Let's make a new layer now to draw the fins. Let's put this layer under that first one over here. And we can draw first maybe tail. So a shape like that. Let's color this inside. Okay. And now the smaller fins on the sides here. So shapes like that. Make sure that you are closing those shapes so you can color them inside. And the bigger fins higher here. And on the same layer we can draw, I don't know, his mustache, those little things he's got here on his head. Okay, now we are going to make a new layer to draw the top fin. And we can put it on top of the body over here. And to draw it, so we can see what we're drawing, we can change the color for a moment. Let's take any color, just like that. And let's draw here a shape coming from here, stopping somewhere over here at the level of the big fins. And just like that. Let's color this inside. And now we can change the color back to the proper color. So let's take it and just drag and drop it in here. Now let's draw the spots on the fish. For this we are going to make a new layer on top of its body. So go to this layer here and make a new layer on top of it. And let's set it as clipping mask. We can now change the color. Let's take this one. And let's draw here some shapes like that. Make sure that you'll be closing the shape so you can color this inside. Okay, this is enough for me. Let's add here some texture now to the body. So for this we can make a new layer on top of that one. Let's set it as clipping mask. And let's change the blending mode to overlay. Let's change the color. Let's take this one. And we can pick a brush with some texture. Let's go to the charcoals. And let's take burnt tree. With the brush size 100%, we can just draw all over it like that. We can turn down the opacity of this a little bit. I will make it 82. Now, before we will work on the fins, we are going to make a shadow. So for this we need to make a shadow from the body. Let's go to this layer and let's duplicate it. Let's take the one underneath and let's tap on it, pick select, so we can change the color of this. Let's take this color here. And now it's the same to the fins, so go to this layer over here, duplicate this layer, take the one underneath, tap on it and pick select. And now we can take the layer of the shadow of the body, put it above the shadow of the fins, and we can merge those together. So let's tap here and pick merge down. Let's move this shadow out. So let's take the arrow tool and let's move it out over here, like that. Okay. Let's blur this a little bit. So let's go to the adjustments and take Gaussian blur. Let's make the blur size 6%. And let's change the opacity of this layer. Let's make it 82. Let's duplicate it. Take the one underneath and change it to overlay. Put the opacity back to 100%. And here we're going to erase a little bit of this shadow too. So let's take the eraser and very lightly we can erase some parts of the fins. Like that, because the fins will be transparent too a little bit. So like this. And now let's go to the layer above, this one. And let's also erase this a little bit. Okay, now we can go back to the fish. So let's go to the layer of the fins. And we can erase the bottom part of them. So very, very lightly, let's erase them like this. Erase more of the bottom parts of them and middle of them. And we are going to draw here some lines. So for this, we want to draw the lines only on the shape of those fins. We need to select those shapes, so let's tap on this layer and pick select. Let's turn off color fill, and let's make a new layer so we can draw the lines on them. Let's change the color, take this one, and let's take the brush, the inking brush, Studio pen, and with the brush size 11 we can draw lines going here like that. here. Okay, and on the tail too. Okay, now we are going to do the same to the top fin. So first let's close this and let's go to the layer of the top fin, this one. We can erase it first a little bit. So let's take the eraser and very lightly, let's make the brush size smaller, 6%. Let's erase the top edge of it. Let's do it very lightly. Okay. And now let's select this layer. So tap on it and pick select. Let's make a new layer on top of this. Let's take the brush and let's draw here some lines going through this fin. Okay. Let's tap here to finish. And now we still have to draw the eyes for the fish. We can do it here on the same layer as the top fin. So let's go to this layer over here. And let's draw here oval shapes somewhere over here, like this. Let's color this. The second one over here. Let's color it. And now let's make a new layer on top of this one. And let's change the color. Take this color. And let's draw here smaller ovals like that. Now we can draw shadow on the fish. So for this, let's go to the layer with the texture on it, this one, and let's make a new layer on top of this. Let's set it as clipping mask. Change this to overlay. And let's pick a brush. Let's go here to vintage, and we can use this one, newsprint. Let's make the brush size here 49, and let's add shadow to the right side of the fish like that. Now let's make this brush smaller, 9%, and we can add some shadow here behind this eye part, like that. Same over here. And now more here on this side by the fin. Now let's take an eraser and with the small brush, 2%, we can erase here edge of this shadow to bring back here some light, like that. Now we can add just a little bit of shadow on the fins. So let's go to this layer over here. Make a new layer on top of this, set it as clipping mask, change it to overlay, take the brush and let's add here just a little bit shadow over here. Like that. Let's also add a tiny bit here on his mustache, like that. And now let's move on to those eye parts. So go to the layer of them, this one. Let's make a new layer on top of this one, set it as clipping mask, change it to overlay. And we can color the right eye mostly, all of it, like that. And this one just here, like this. Now let's add here a little bit of light on the fish. So let's make a new layer for this. Let's put it above that top fin details. We'll just make a one layer for the light for the whole fish over here. First let's add it to the body. So let's go to the layer of the body, tap on it and pick select. Now go back to our new layer, this one, and change the color. Let's take this blue one over here, the lightest blue. And let's make the brush size 35. And we can add the light over here like this. Let's add it also a little bit on the shadow part where we erased it before. Okay. And this will be enough here. Now let's select the layer with the eye parts. So go over here, tap on it and pick select. Go back to our layer with the light, this one. Let's make the brush size smaller for this, 9%. And we can just add this lightly over here. Just a little bit. We can also add a tiny bit of the light in his eyes. So let's go to the layer of them, tap on it and pick select. Go back to our layer of the light, make the brush size 2%, and let's add here a tiny light like this. Same here. Okay. And now let's select the fins. So let's go to the layer of them, this one, tap on it and pick select, and go to the layer of the light. Here, let's make the brush size bigger. Let's make it 37 and add it over here, like that. Let's add it also a little bit on the mustache, on the ends of them. And this will be enough. And let's also add it to the top fin. I forgot about that. So I will select the shape of it again. Now we'll go back to the layer of the light and just add it here at the top of it, like that. Let's tap here to finish this. And now we can change the blending mode of this layer. Let's tap on it and set it to add. And we can turn down the opacity of this. We want this to be visible just a little bit. I think 27% is enough. Okay, so now we can bring back the layers that we turned off at the start here. So the reflection in the water. And we should put the shadow from the reflection of the water above the fish. So let's find those layers. It's this one and this one. Select them both, so swipe on them to the right. And let's move them up here. So they will be under the water reflections shapes, like this. So we can actually have some of that shadow on the fish too. Now let's look at our illustration. And if you want, you can maybe move around some of the plants. I think I would like to move this one a little bit to the left and maybe make it bigger. So I can select all of the layers that have this plant together with the shadow. So I'll start here and I will swipe on the layers to the right. And now the shadow layers. I can take the selection. At the bottom I have freehand option selected, color field turned off, and I can select this plant over here. Take the arrow tool and just move this out like that. Maybe I'll make it bigger. I think I like this better like this. Okay, I can tap to finish now. And also I want to do the same with this one. So I can take the selection tool again. I can select it. And I can move it over here. Okay. So now in the end we can still add here some extra reflections on the water. Let's make a new layer for this. Over here, above the reflections already on it. Let's keep this light color. And let's change the brush. Let's go here to charcoals. And let's take to be compressed. Let's make the brush size maybe 21. And we can add here some small reflection like this. And if you feel like you can't draw very well now, it's probably because we didn't change the settings of the pressure and smoothing. So let's do that now. Let's go here and change the stabilization back to smaller number. I'll make it 15.9. Okay. And now I will add some more of the reflections. Very, very lightly. I think that's enough. And I will change the blending mode of this layer to screen. Let's turn down the opacity of this. So it's there, but it's not too much. I will make it 61. We can see the difference. Maybe it's still a bit too much. I will turn it down to 47. Okay. Now let's make one more extra layer here. And we can add some more glittery sparkles on the water. Let's change the brush for this. Let's go to my siakulaart special brushes. And let's take here this one with dots watery. With the brush size 22, we can add some of this around the water in few places. I will use the arrow tool to make this bigger a little bit. Okay. And now let's change the blending mode of this layer to add. And let's add here some glow to this. So let's go to the adjustments and take bloom. Swipe your pencil on the screen to the bloom size. And let's change the settings at the bottom here. And don't worry if you think this is too strong now, you can always turn down the opacity of this layer. Okay, my settings are like this. Bloom 76, transition 55, size 18 and burn 30. Let's tap here to finish. And now let's turn down the opacity of this. I will make it 55. And now let's still add some light on the plants. So let's go here to the top. Let's make a new layer. Let's set it as clipping mask. Let's pick a color. Let's take this yellow one over here. And let's change the brush. Let's go back here to charcoals. And we can use here this to be compressed. Let's make the brush size 12 and add some light here on top of the plants, very lightly, like that, on the left side of them. This will be enough. Now we can change the blending mode. So let's tap here and let's set this to add and turn down the opacity of this. I will make it 55. And I'm still looking at this and I think that I actually want to move also this plant. Sorry about that. I will select all of the layers with the plants and the shadow. And I will take the selection tool, select this, take the arrow tool and move it. I think this will look better somewhere closer to the fish. Yes, I think this is better composition now. So I will tap here to finish this. Okay, and now this illustration is finished. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and I hope you can share your drawing with me on Instagram. I would love to see it. And if you would like to draw more of me, don't forget to check out my Patreon. Link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching and see you in my next video. Bye!